Blake Lively spent 2024 as one of the most protected names in Hollywood. By mid-2026, reporting suggests she wasn't at Taylor Swift's wedding to Travis Kelce. That single detail sounds almost too dramatic to be real, but the sequence of events that got her there is stranger and messier than most headlines let on. This wasn't a slow fade or one rough press cycle. It was a rapid, public reshaping of her image driven by a legal battle whose outcome, on close inspection, is a lot less clean than she lost or she won. For close to 20 years, Blake had a type of career most actresses would trade almost anything for. She wasn't the industry's most decorated performer, and she wasn't landing the biggest tentpole franchises, but she had something harder to fake: broad, durable likability. From the sisterhood of the traveling pants in 2005 onward, she had the kind of approachable but aspirational quality casting directors chase for entire careers. When Gossip Girl premiered in 2007, that mix turned her into a genuine phenomenon. Serena van der Woodsen was written as messy and occasionally insufferable, but Blake played her with enough warmth that audiences rooted for her anyway. And that warmth carried into her public persona. Funny, family first, the kind of star who'd tease her husband online and post her kids' baking disasters, making her feel like a friend you just hadn't met yet. That brand carried her through the 2011 Green Lantern flop, a genuine low point at the time since she'd just left Gossip Girl as Hollywood's presumed next leading lady and instead delivered a film that failed on nearly every front. But she walked off that set with something more durable than a franchise. She met Ryan Reynolds. They married in 2012 at Boone Hall Plantation in South Carolina. And what followed is central to understanding how big this fall has felt, because Ryan's career exploded in the years after. Deadpool shattered box office records, he built a reputation as one of Hollywood's sharpest self-aware marketers, and he sold aviation gin for a reported 9-figure sum. Blake became one half of a couple the public was openly invested in, trading jokes online, raising 4 children together, and picking up real critical praise for 2018's A Simple Favor, proof she could act when the material asked her to. By the time It Ends With Us went into production, that long run of goodwill had built up real momentum. Momentum that matters, because almost everything from here on is contested to some degree. The project had trouble built in from the start. Colleen Hoover's novel has a massive, devoted fan base who'd spent years imagining who should play Lily Bloom and Ryle Kincaid. When the casting landed, the response online was lukewarm. Blake, in her mid-30s, was playing a character written as barely out of college. Justin Baldoni, who also directed, faced a similar age mismatch, and that gap between the characters on the page and the actors on screen showed up in reviews and in early reactions to trailer footage. Then came the press tour, and this is where a lot of commentators pinpoint Blake's first real misstep. It Ends With Us is a domestic violence story. Heavy, unflinching, centered on a woman trapped in an abusive relationship. Promoting a film like that calls for a degree of care most viewers expect. Instead, Blake told fans to grab their girlfriends, put on florals, and treat it like a fun night out, while simultaneously promoting her drink brand, Betty Buzz, and her hair care line.
I think we just need a reminder on who Blake Lively is when marketing a sensitive film such as It Ends With Us, because she attempted to do a rebrand by completely changing lanes on her views and experiences with DV.
I suffer from toxic masculinity. Absolutely not.
You hit me when I started crying. Yeah, I said, get those tears back in there, boy.
Blake Brown. Critics and domestic violence advocates called the tone badly mismatched with the subject matter, and that criticism spread fast across social media. Her team has never publicly addressed the tone complaints in detail, which is itself part of why the backlash lingered rather than fading the way most press tour controversies do. Around the same time, the red carpet optics turned strange. Baldoni began doing press separately from the rest of the cast and was largely absent from joint photos, and fans picked up on it immediately. Speculation exploded across TikTok and Reddit, with users combing through behind-the-scenes clips and interview footage looking for evidence of what was actually happening on set. 4 months after the film's release, in December 2024, Blake filed a formal complaint alleging that Baldoni and people connected to the production had subjected her to sexual harassment on set, and then orchestrated a retaliatory smear campaign against her after she raised concerns. She later formalized this into a federal lawsuit and separately sued the New York Times over its coverage of her allegations. These are her claims, laid out in legal filings and public statements. Baldoni has denied them from the outset, calling them, through his attorney, completely false, outrageous, and intentionally salacious.
Look, from the beginning, the chances of settlement were next to zero when you add the parties that are involved in this. Justin, while he would have liked to get, millions of dollars to compensate him for his damages as a result of the defamation, that was always secondary to showing that there was no sexual harassment. That's it.
Baldoni's response went well beyond a denial. In January 2025, he countersued Blake, Ryan Reynolds, and her publicist Leslie Sloan for roughly $400 million, alleging defamation and claiming they had used their combined industry leverage to try to destroy his career, and he filed a separate libel suit against the New York Times. Both of those suits were dismissed by the presiding judge in June 2025. That dismissal is real, and it matters, but it only tells half the story. It closes out Baldoni's countersuit, not Blake's original claims, which were still working through the courts at that point. Unsealed court filings and internal communications, including messages first reported by the New York Times, surfaced over the following year and became part of the public narrative on both sides. Coverage built around these documents painted a picture of a production in open conflict, a pressured, unhappy set, references to Blake herself in blunt brand management terms, and dueling claims about who was actually steering the film's marketing. Blake's team disputes those characterizations, and filings from both sides are written to make the other look as bad as possible. Treating leaked messages as a verdict on anyone's character gets the genre wrong. They're evidence in an ongoing dispute, not a settled account of what happened. Depositions added another layer. Jenny Slate, who played Baldoni's on-screen sister in the film, described the set in blunt terms in private messages that later became part of the court record. And other unsealed exchanges pulled in publicist Jamila Jamil and members of both camps' PR teams. What they mostly explain is why this case generated so much ongoing tabloid coverage, a steady drip of quotable material for nearly 2 years, which is a big part of why the public narrative outran the actual legal findings. The two sides went through a court-ordered settlement conference on February 11, 2026, and it failed. Both actors left the courthouse separately without comment, and Baldoni's attorney told reporters afterward that the case looked headed to trial. 2 months later, a federal judge dismissed 10 of Blake's original 13 claims against Baldoni, including some of the sexual harassment allegations, while letting a narrower set of retaliation claims move forward. Headlines leaned hard into 10 of 13 dismissed, and that number did real work shaping public opinion, even though a legal dismissal isn't the same as a factual finding that nothing happened. And this is where the internet's version of the case starts separating from what actually happened in court. On May 4th, 2026, with a jury trial 2 weeks out, both sides settled the whole thing. No trial, a joint statement, and according to the agreement, Baldoni's own attorney later published, no admission of wrongdoing by either side. Then, in June, a judge ordered Baldoni's production company to pay Blake's legal fees tied to his now-dismissed defamation suit against her, citing a California law that protects people from retaliatory lawsuits after they report harassment, and denied her request for punitive damages in the same ruling. The full record is genuinely mixed. Most of her harassment claims didn't survive. His much larger countersuit was thrown out entirely, and a court later found enough merit in her complaint to make him cover her costs. Neither she lost nor she won holds up. The Taylor Swift thread is where things move furthest from documented fact into speculation, and it deserves to be treated that way. Blake and Taylor's friendship goes back over a decade. Taylor is godmother to Blake's 3 daughters, and Blake's daughter James's voice appears briefly on Taylor's track, Gorgeous. That part is well established. What's murkier is what happened once the case put Taylor in the spotlight. In January 2026, private text exchanges between Blake and Taylor were unsealed as part of the litigation, and multiple outlets reported that Taylor felt exposed by having personal messages made public, with sources close to her camp describing a boundary tightening in the friendship afterward. Take that with the usual grain of salt reserved for unnamed sources, but the unsealed texts themselves are real, and getting pulled into someone else's lawsuit tends to cool a friendship regardless of how it's spun. Then came the wedding. When Taylor married Travis Kelce in the summer of 2026, Blake wasn't there, and the tabloid ecosystem immediately split into competing narratives. Several outlets, citing unnamed insiders, reported that Blake and Ryan were simply never invited and were furious and humiliated about it. Other reporting offered a different version, that Blake made the call not to attend so as not to take attention away from Taylor's day. Nobody involved has gone on the record either way. What's not in dispute is that Blake missed a wedding with a nearly all of Hollywood guest list, and that absence became its own story, regardless of the real reason behind it. Justin Baldoni, meanwhile, spent most of the legal battle staying publicly quiet and only broke that silence after the May settlement. On July 8, 2026, he and his wife Emily posted a joint video on Instagram in which they discussed injustice, pain, and an ongoing process of healing, without naming Blake or the film directly. It read as carefully considered rather than off the cuff, a statement made after 2 years of legal advice about what could and couldn't be said, but it also landed as the more sympathetic public moment of the two, since Blake's side has not given a comparable interview addressing the fallout directly. Whatever the legal record actually shows, the public read on Blake has shifted hard. She has no major projects publicly announced, and coverage of her has moved from beloved actress and brand ambassador to cautionary tale with Betty Buzz and Blake Brown, so heavily promoted during that tone-deaf press run, now carrying some of that reputational weight by association. Whether that shift is proportionate to what's actually been proven in court is a fair question, and one the coverage rarely stops to ask. Can she come back from this? The usual Hollywood comeback playbook, disappear, do the work, deliver one undeniable performance, doesn't quite fit what actually broke here. Robert Downey Jr.'s comeback was talent overcoming addiction. The audience just needed proof he could still act. Blake's core product was never really her range as an actress. It was likability, the sense that she was exactly who she appeared to be. Unscripted Instagram stories and all. That's a harder thing to rebuild than a career, because nobody's waiting to be convinced she can still deliver a performance. They're waiting to be convinced she's not who the leaked messages and the lawsuit made her look like. That calls for something closer to trust repair than a redemption arc. An actual account of what happened, in her own words, not just time and a well-placed project. So far, Blake hasn't offered any of that publicly. No sit-down addressing the press tour tone directly, no acknowledgement of how the promotion landed with domestic violence survivors, no interview walking through her side beyond the legal filings themselves. She's largely stayed out of the spotlight with Ryan and their family, which is a defensible strategy if the goal is waiting out the news cycle. But the cycle, this time, didn't erase the story so much as settle into a messier version of it. A legal outcome nobody's fully reckoned with. A friendship that cooled under circumstances nobody involved has explained. And a public narrative that's outpaced the actual facts on record. It's also worth naming the incentive structure that helped stretch this story out for 2 straight years. A case with this many famous names attached: Blake, Ryan, Taylor, a director turned plaintiff, unsealed texts, celebrity depositions, is close to ideal tabloid material. And outlets have every reason to keep running insider pieces long after the actual legal questions have been resolved. That doesn't mean every unnamed source story is fabricated, but it does mean the volume of coverage isn't a reliable signal of how much new, verified information is actually coming out. A lot of what's circulated in the past few months, especially around the wedding, reads as recycled speculation dressed up as a fresh scoop. That gap between what's been proven and what's been assumed is really the story here. Undoing it won't just take a well-timed project, it will take Blake or her team engaging directly with the parts of this that are still genuinely unresolved, rather than letting silence get filled in by whichever version of events travels fastest. The collapse in her public image happened fast. Whatever comes next, if it comes, is going to depend less on a comeback narrative and more on somebody actually closing the gap between the record and the rumor. Thank you so much for watching. If this one kept you hooked, make sure to like the video and subscribe to Clout Fallout so you don't miss the next update on this story.